And welcome to Speak for Yourself. Marcel Swally and Emi Acho all week at least. Can I get that?
That only gives me 2 more days.
Okay. Emi Acho forever. Change your birth certificate. Everything. And I see the hair changing too.
Look, so it's getting long.
It's getting long. This is a better look for you.
You like the beard?
Yeah.
Shall we continue?
It's been a roller coaster of good and ugly with you, so it's good to see you up on a high right now. Let's get it started with my Clippers. Ooh, they're going to try to shake things off after dropping Game 1 to the Jazz with their Game 2 matchup tonight in Utah. Kawhi Leonard said there was no excuse for losing their 13-point halftime lead. You think? Paul George scored 20 points. You hear that? You hear that, Acho? But he was not playoff piece, shooting a disappointing 4 for 17. Yeah, I read it. So, Acho, who's under more pressure tonight, Paul George or Kawhi Leonard?
So I love these Clippers topics because I love just kind of talking to you about something you are passionate about. That's what makes sports great.
Yes.
Kawhi Leonard is under more pressure tonight, big dog. And
interesting.
Kawhi is under more pressure to me because pressure always has a direct correlation to expectation. Okay. We've had this conversation several times on this show.
I'm with you.
The more you are expected of something, the more pressure you are under. You just joked, and I appreciate the joke for another day or two, Emi Acho. If y'all ain't watched the show yesterday, your boy, by the grace of God, won a sports Emmy. I was under pressure to win it. Why was I under pressure to win it? I'll be honest with you.
Oh, there we go. The truth.
Because everybody was like, Acho, you better win. You the favorite. Like, Acho, you the one who had the whole uncomfortable conversations. You the one that got a best-selling book. You the one that got these 80 million views. You better win. Like so now I would look at people and be like, yeah, I'm going to win. I'm sure I'm going to win. Oh, my God. Bro, I had so much pressure to win because the expectation for me to win was incredibly high. Other people didn't really have the same expectations to win. Some were just happy to be there. But, like, I'm the one who's friends with Oprah. Like, so now I'm like, oh, God, I got to win. And if I hadn't won, woo, that would have been a huge letdown. Because so many people put pressure on me because I had higher expectations based upon my previous performance. Kawhi Leonard has higher expectations based upon his previous performance. Thus, he has a lot more pressure to win. Kawhi Leonard came to the Clippers to see if he could do it again. Paul George came to the Clippers to see if he could do it. There's a difference. See, Kawhi had already done it in San Antonio. He had already done it in Toronto. Now he's coming to the Clippers to try to do it for the third time. Third time's the charm, right? Third one's supposed to be the closer.
That's it.
Paul George, he hadn't done it in OKC. Hadn't done it in Indiana. So now he's coming to L.A. to team up with Kawhi to see if he can do it at all. So everyone is looking at Kawhi like, all right, big dog, it's your team. You the man. We've seen you be the man. Finals MVP, not once but twice. Paul George, good player. Great player, some would argue. But Kawhi, you the man. What's up? So as I look at it, Sel, Kawhi is under significantly more pressure because he has more expectation.
Oh, okay. Well, you know I disagree with you. Anytime I'm just sitting there kind of quiet, I'm just loading up ammunition.
Just right.
These are counterpoints.
Just right.
Just right. Great take. Great take. You ain't calling any favors, Oprah? Oprah, make sure this pressure is real and it delivers. No, I know you didn't do that. But I'm going with Paul George. I'm going with someone else than Kawhi Leonard, the favorite. Acho, the favorite. Who's Paul George of your group in the Emmys? Malika?
Honestly, Malika should have got me.
Oh, Malika should have got you. She should have got you, yeah.
Shout out to my dog, Hawk.
Okay. We gonna name them all now so you're gonna be friends with everybody. Some of them didn't qualify. You said one of them was just lucky to be there, happy to be there. I ain't gonna call him out, but I know who it is. So Malik Andrews, oh, man. Paul George. Did Paul George give himself a nickname? He did, right? Playoff P. All of a sudden, he took that, embraced it. I'm Playoff P. My grandmother always says, don't call for attention because you could never hang up. Here's the thing. He called for attention. Playoff P. Okay. We looking now. Playoff P all the time. And there's no shot at him. There's no shot at Malik Andrews. She had a nickname, too. Mass Malika. Remember in the bubble?
Hey, Malika Andrews did her thing.
Yeah.
Shout out to Malik.
That's right.
Malika, you real.
That's right. And that's why I'm voting for her, and I'm voting for Paul George in this one right there, brother. Under more pressure. Look, if you're Paul George, you give yourself that nickname, you call for attention, you go out there and you peacock this moment, bright colors, hey, I'm here. Okay, we looking. We want to see it. Now have we seen it in consistency? You know why there's no pressure on Kawhi Leonard? Because he's already done it. Even if you try to clown, say, you can't do it with the Clippers, he's like, well, I done did it before. I went to an organization that never won a championship ever. I played 1 year, one and done, and this ain't college basketball, one and done in Toronto and got him a chip. also won one in San Antonio. So no matter what you say to Kawhi Leonard, he'll be like, all right, did it. So it's funny with Kevin Durant, you make this argument,
yes,
I'm going to use it in this situation. You continue to move the goalposts, but he hasn't done it without an all-star, without an MVP,
former MVP. Yes, sir.
without a two-time. You keep moving the goalposts. But you look at Kawhi Leonard, where you going to move him? He like, I did that. Oh, you did it when you were part of the big three. You weren't even the biggest of the three. Okay, so I go to Toronto. What you gonna say now? Oh, well, you had what would I have? Because I got it right now with Paul George, and no one's looking at Paul George in the same respect. Here's the thing about it. Paul George, you pulled the gun out. Where I'm from, they say don't pull it out unless you're gonna use it.
That's real, big dog.
And
That's
he
real.
pulled out, I am a playoff player. Well, then, let's see it.
I love this because we actually naturally drastically disagree. Because, Sel, I don't think Paul George's legacy, I don't think Kawhi Leonard's legacy is under more pressure than Paul George. But when you talk about who's under more pressure, pressure's outside forces affecting the internal.
Okay.
Right? Kawhi Leonard has to be under more pressure for actually the same logic you're saying.
Let's see.
He's already done it. So I know what you are capable of. You are better, Kawhi Leonard, than Paul George is.
Yeah.
So I expect significantly more out of you than I expect out of Paul George. You, Kawhi Leonard, shot 60% from the field for the first time in a playoff series since Shaquille O'Neal in 2000. You, Kawhi Leonard, have shown us your greatness. I showed y'all yesterday where Paul George ranks amongst the stars, players currently in the playoffs scoring 20 points or more. Pull up the full screen. Because you, Kawhi Leonard, are first in field goal percentage amongst all the players remaining that score more than 20 points. And Paul George is last. I know who Paul George is. Now, I also know who I wanted Paul George to be, but I know who Paul George is. Paul George is a some star. He's a star some of the time. You, Kawhi Leonard, are an all-star. You are a star all of the time. Because we know exactly who Kawhi Leonard is and who Paul George is, PG ain't under the same pressure as Kawhi. Because if PG goes 4 for 17, we're just going to be like, here go playoff P, pandemic Paul. But if Kawhi Leonard goes 4 from 17, we're going to be like, huh? We didn't bring you here for this. Last thing I'm going to say on my second lap is, Kawhi Leonard said he was going to go to L.A. if he could orchestrate someone else going there with him.
Yeah.
Kawhi goes to L.A., and Kawhi brings in PG in so many ways. L.A. forfeits a whole bunch of future capital for Paul George. You, Kawhi Leonard, put this together. So if we are going to blame LeBron James for the Lakers' shortcomings because LeBron is not only the star, but he also put together the team, then how dare we turn a blind eye to Kawhi Leonard, who is also the star, and put together the other star player, just like LeBron James did. Because of that reason and how we've also called it in the past, Kawhi Leonard's under way more pressure.
Nah, it's not analogous. LeBron and Kawhi are not the same. LeBron's not in his prime anymore. Kawhi is. So think about that. So we know that you can do it and you're in your prime. So anytime you don't do it, we don't look at you because we know you balling. You already read off some of the stats. Let's read off some more of the positive stats. Kawhi is 5th in points per game in the playoffs, 3rd amongst players still alive playing right now. You put up on that chart. He's top dog.
Yes, sir.
So when we see Kawhi, we already know he is the main ingredient for a championship team.
Yes, sir.
So if there's not a championship team, maybe something wrong with the other ingredients. I give it to you like this. Kyle Lowry comes to mind when I think of Paul George. Basically, this is the high jump. This is the threshold. Paul George, are you as good as Kyle Lowry? Yeah, I am. I'm playoff P. Well, if you are, how come you and Kawhi can't add to a championship like Kyle Lowry and Kawhi did? That's pressure on you because the only one that is common in that situation is Kawhi. Now, who's not common? Playoff P. If you're going to get him over the hump, like Kyle Lowry got him over the hump because Kawhi's in the building, well, then you got to be at least as good as Kyle Lowry. Who's better in basketball, Kyle Lowry or Paul George?
We want to say
No. We get paid to say what we believe.
I'd rather have Kyle Lowry.
You damn lie. No.
Over the last 3 years?
Look, you take Kyle Lowry because he won a championship, but you're not going to take him in one-on-one basketball.
No, not in one-on-one.
Team building
not in
basketball. On team building basketball.
And team I would. And team I would because you know we talk about this all the time, Sel. Leadership. Leadership matters.
That's how you draft first?
Leadership.
You draft the best leader?
If you already got talent, what else you need, big dog? You got talent. You got Kawhi.
Hold on. I'm saying if I'm building this team right now, I don't know the results yet. So you're already working with some...
Yes, with knowledge.
You're already working with that knowledge.
Correct.
So you're going to say Kyle Lowry because he did it.
Yes.
But I'm not... Paul George is better than Kyle
Lowry.
More
talented, yes.
And better. Okay, yeah, talented and better. Everything you want to say. I love you, Kyle Lowry. This is no shot. Paul George, you need to finish the deal so you won't go down in legacy less than Kyle Lowry because that championship ring matters. That's the problem right here. Paul George eliminated first round of the playoffs 5 times in his career. Why is there more pressure on him? Because he has to change that. They brought in a Batman, and they said his name is Kawhi Leonard. How come you can't do the same thing that this Batman has done not 1, but 2 other places? It's not because of Batman.
You know what?
It's because you really ain't Robin.
You're on to something here, and I think the misconception that you're on to is the problem with why I disagree with you.
Oh, let's go.
We say Paul George is better than Kyle Lowry. The problem is we still think Paul George is too good. We have to adequately assess who Paul George is.
I'm
So,
here. I'm
Paul
here for
George
that.
has, what is it, the worst winning percentage of people still remaining in the playoffs as far as playoff win percentage?
But that's team.
That is team.
That's a lot of teaming.
But you contribute to your team.
Oh, facts.
So if we're going to say that Paul George is better than Kyle Lowry, in the last 6-7 years, based upon what? Kyle Lowry done went to 5 straight All-Star appearances now. Paul George has 5 out of the last 7. So it's based upon what? We're still living off the pre-injury Paul George.
No, we not, because he rebounded.
Or
he came back.
Or we're doing this.
What we
doing? We're living off who we want Paul George to be, not who Paul George really is.
Why we ain't doing that for Kyle Lowry? Who wants anybody to be anything? I'm just reading what you give me. And what Paul George gives me is... Paul George leads all players in the playoffs right now in fourth quarter points. Go to your local sports bar and bring that up, and I bet you nobody...
What about the other 3 quarters,
No. Okay, you're right. And look, me and you going to have a different conversation in the VIP room. But when we go out there to General Gym Pop, this is what we're talking about. No one thinks he's clutch, right?
He's not.
Okay, but if you got all the fourth quarter points, guess what? You might be clutch. Now, he's 5th in points per game. I ain't going to cook the books in the fourth quarter. But the point is, Paul George has showed up. Paul George only has 2 games of plus-minus in the playoffs. Kawhi Leonard has 4. Deep dive, I understand that's not top layer stuff. But the point is, Paul George is a little bit more than people give him credit for and a little less than maybe he's advertising in playoff P. That's his problem. He's not playoff P fully, but he ain't pandemic P. He's somewhere closer to playoff P, but he needs a shiny object, a cherry on top to solidify who he really is. Because right now, people like you think he's less than Kyle Lowry.
It's the problem is this, and here's the problem we're making with Paul George. The issue is you think Paul George is better than he is, so you're still giving him superstar pressure. He is no longer the Remember,
no, he's not.
LeBron James goes to Miami. Let's go back. LeBron James goes to Miami. That hold the decision, 2011. They lose to the Mavericks. First year he's there. And that was still D-Wade's team.
Yeah.
That first year he was there. But remember the second year that LeBron James was in Miami, it starts to transition. It becomes LeBron's team. LeBron has been on record saying, quote, I knew we had to win the championship or they were going to break us apart as soon as they put us together. D-Wade didn't say that. Chris Bosh didn't say that. LeBron James said that because it was LeBron James's team. LeBron felt the pressure of knowing he had to win because now it was unequivocally his team and he was the unequivocal best player. It's Kawhi's team, unequivocally. If they both have 20 tonight, we gonna come in and be like, oh, Paul George only averages 23, so that's standard. Kawhi averages 32. He only had 20. If Spidey goes off for 50, we're not going to say, man, Paul George should have stuck him. We're going to say, Kawhi, you're the best on-ball defender. You should have been up against him. It is a matter of Kawhi is better, so there's more pressure on him. But if you still think Paul George is incredibly good, even in the playoffs, that's where our disconnect lies. I'm accepting the reality of who Paul George is.
Wow. Oh, your reality.
The reality.
The reality, the truth is Paul George is the player that has the pressure on him. Let me give it to you like this. I'm going to give you 2 examples. One with Tom Brady. Tom Brady done won 6 Super Bowls before he goes to Tampa Bay. He doesn't win a Super Bowl in Tampa Bay. Everyone's going to look at him and say, do you still have it?
Yes, sir.
Or they're going to look at the others and say, y'all ain't good enough because this guy always wins Super Bowls. That's LeBron James. LeBron James, Tom Brady, both out their prime. But they need others to kind of dress it up.
Yes, sir.
That was your earlier example. Let me give you this example right to your heart. You just won an Emmy.
Yes, sir.
I ain't never won an Emmy. Not to my knowledge. Maybe some production staff did on the show I was on, but I never won it. But I'm going to flip it on you because you can't see the forest from the trees.
Talk to me.
Okay? Say you joined this show and I had won an Emmy. Not only had I won an Emmy, I won an Emmy with Whitlock. I won an Emmy with Michelle Beadle. I won an Emmy with Max Kellerman. I won an Emmy with Kerry Champion. I won an Emmy with everybody. And then all of a sudden, we're 10 years in, we ain't won an Emmy. Who the pressure on? Me? I already done it. Not once, not twice. Kawhi Leonard, not once, not twice. You, because you the reason we ain't winning Emmys no more.
Let me ask you.
That's on you, Paul George.
Let's define two things. I hope y'all enjoying this as much as I am. There's a difference, I think, between pressure and fault, right? Who is
they're two different words.
Who is at fault? Paul George would be at fault if they lost. I would be at fault if we were no longer winning Emmys. But I wouldn't be under the pressure because you the winner. You the winner, big dog. You should win.
What?
Not me.
What?
You the winner.
The pressure's on the one who's broker, who's the brokest. You have nothing to lie on. You have no Emmys. Paul George, you have no championships. You have no finals appearances. What you gonna lay on? Me? I got a double, triple cheeseburger of mattress sitting here. Yeah, Toronto. Yeah, San Antonio. Yeah, I am Kawhi Leonard, whose legacy, not cemented, but certainly solidified, certainly can't be disrespected. Paul George's legacy right now, it can go either way. Admit it, it's teetering right there. It can go really well if this season ends well, Kyle Lowry, or it can go really bad if I told you confirmation bias, he ain't nothing but pandemic.
But who would get the blame? Because I think sometimes you can look at the inverse. Whoever would get the blame would take more of the pressure. If you want to go Buccaneers example, Tom Brady would have gotten the blame. LeBron James, we all know, we have hindsight bias.
He gets both.
He got the blame.
And pressure.
Exactly. So I think we could, if we answer the question of who would get the blame, we can also answer the question of who would be under pressure. If the Clippers don't win, I think Kawhi Leonard would get the blame because he's the better player.
He'd get the blame, but who getting the pressure? Paul George, get out of here. I knew I'd wear him down.
Let's head to Green Bay, where Aaron Rodgers is holding out for minicamp, so Jordan Love is getting the first-team reps. Love has received both positive and negative feedback so far in camp. Rodgers could still be MIA when the season starts, and Love was asked if he'd be prepared to start Week 1. Y'all take a listen.
100%. Obviously, this is a time where I'm getting a lot of extremely valuable reps that I might not have been getting in a normal circumstance. So I'm going to take it day by day, and but yeah, that's what I'm here for. I was drafted here to play quarterback, so I'll definitely be ready Week 1.
NFL?
Anybody? Are you confident Jordan Love will be ready Week 1?
No. Hell no, I'm not. If I was his father, if I was a family member, I'd look him dead in the eyes like, boy, you in trouble Week 1. And that's no slight at Jordan Love. I would say that to any single player out there who's talking about Week 1, their first game in the NFL. Nobody's ready for their first game ever. You think you are.
That's real.
You think getting on the side of the 405 freeway, you can run to the median. You think you can cross that and ain't no cars coming. Soon you take that first step, you're going to realize what 90 miles an hour looks like. It's coming so fast. Good luck gauging what that looks like. So this is no shot at Jordan Love. This is a shot at every single player in their first game. Minus Justin Herbert. Like, God, I don't know what he did, but he balled out from hell low. But it wasn't Week 1, it was Week 2. Even Peyton Manning, the greatest #1 draft prospect overall selected at the quarterback position that I've seen was Peyton Manning. Want to know what his first game looked like? 3 interceptions, 58 quarterback rating. Struggle, struggle, struggle city. Now, that's not to say that Jordan Love's going to fail in his first game. But if you're asking me, do I have confidence in it? Am I going to place a bet? Hell no. Because you know what he's going to see? First thing that happens when you get on that real football field in a real game of action is this ain't the preseason.
Yes, sir.
Those bullets are live now. Before, blanks. They hurt now. 2, the speed. I don't know how we do it as mammals, but we run faster than we usually run. So all of a sudden, that intensity, all of a sudden, that comes to a different level. Here's the worst part of it all. Everything you thought, everything you saw on video, everything you saw on visuals is now in reality. No more simulation, brother. And you're going to see D tackles faking it, disguise coverages. You're going to see things you have not seen. The unfamiliar is now behind you because guess what? What you're familiar with is, in college, I saw this. I'm going to do that. These dudes have mastered that and some. So, Jordan Love, take it from me, brother. You may succeed, Justin Herbert, or you may fail, Peyton Manning. Don't put too much onus on game 1. It's just the first one.
Yeah, I co-sign that. Well, no, Jordan Love will not be ready Week 1, but it's not Jordan Love's fault. I think first thing we have to do is understand, just because you're a first-round pick doesn't mean you're a first-round talent.
Okay.
And some of the worst things that can ever happen to an athlete at any level in any sport is to be overdrafted. And Jordan Love, I believe, was overdrafted. Let's look no further than my dog, Mitch Trubisky. Okay. Mitch Trubisky, overdrafted, taken by the Chicago Bears, #2 overall pick, ahead of Deshaun Watson, ahead of Patrick Mahomes. So now, from then on, we are looking at Mitch Trubisky as a number 2 talent. We've seen a lot of number 2 talents, and they pan out. But you, Mitch Trubisky, you holding the Chicago Bears back. Even though you, Mitch Trubisky, are 25-17 in your last 38 games, and Dak Prescott was, I believe, 20-17 in his last 37, something along those lines. Mitch was 25-17 in his last 40 or change. With that being said, it's like, wait, Mitch, we're viewing you from a negative light because of where you were drafted. Jordan Love, we treating you like a first-round quarterback because you were taken in the first round. But if you're not a first-round talent, which many people have now said you are not, based upon what you've shown in practice over the course of a year and a half, based upon you not even dressing up and being the backup for the majority of games last year, based upon your last year in college being worse than your second to last year in college, if you're not a first-round talent, then you are going to suffer because our perception of you is greater than it should have been in the first place. So that, to me, is why I don't think he'll be ready week 1. The other reason I don't think he'll be ready week 1 is the Packers aren't going to allow him to be. We out here talking about Aaron Rodgers. General manager focused on Aaron Rodgers. Head coach focused on Aaron Rodgers. Devontae Adams, star wide receiver, quoting and talking about Aaron Rodgers yesterday. Ain't nobody paying no attention to Jordan Love. Told you this before, I'll say it again. The Pygmalion effect. When studying sports psychology, you learn about the Pygmalion effect. All it is self-fulfilling prophecy. I do not believe that Jordan Love will be a good quarterback, so I treat him like he will not be a good quarterback. He does something that confirms he was not a good quarterback, and I'm like, I told you, he's not a good quarterback. What did the GM for the Packers say just 2 months ago? Yeah, Jordan Love is not ready. What did Matt LaFleur, the head coach for the Packers, say just 2 weeks ago? Still got to see a lot of progress. They don't believe that he's a capable quarterback. So they're not going to treat him like he's a capable quarterback. Then come the preseason, he's going to do something that makes him look incapable. Throw an interception, take a bad sack, fumble a shotgun snap. And we are going to say, I told you. He's not a good quarterback. I don't think Jordan Love is even in a position to be ready for us to have confidence in him week 1.
Okay, strong. Here's the thing. Let me push back on this. I don't think he's overdrafted because I don't know who he is. I don't know what kind of talent he is. Justin Herbert. Some people were talking bad about him. Some people were talking good about him. He shut all that up, and he said, look, this is what it is. So right now, I'm just telling him I'm not believing in you week 1 because week 1, I need to see how you perform. After week 1, I can come in here and quickly say, oh, my God, Jordan Love is next level. But right now, week 1, please. Peyton Manning, week 1, please. I'm not betting on any of these guys week 1 because it's no longer a kid's game. You're playing against grown men who have their livelihood based on what they do in performance. So I don't know if he was drafted too high. I just don't know. I know he was drafted to the wrong circumstance. Let's be real about this. Aaron Rodgers was drafted into the wrong circumstance. While there's a PR collateral damage warfare going on, don't insert me as a first-rounder in that, like Aaron Rodgers was with Brett Favre. So he had to wait. Aaron Rodgers, people probably were writing articles. He's overdrafted. Why is he still there, even though he dropped in the draft? It's taking him 3 years to get on the field, even though he's behind a legend, the same legend that went 4-12 the year he was drafted. He had to wait. Jordan Love doesn't look like he's going to have to wait depending on this Aaron Rodgers situation. But we don't know. But the circumstance is not good. Why? Because Brett Hundley found out the hard way. Matt Flynn found out the hard way. Scott Tozien, and Seneca Wallace, remember that dude? All these dudes combined 6-11-1 at the quarterback position when Aaron Rodgers is not taking a snap under center. That just tells me right now, Jordan Love, I don't care where you drafted. You could have been drafted high, drafted low. It doesn't seem like this system functions without Aaron Rodgers. This is not the Tom Brady system with Bill Belichick. Insert anybody else, they have success. So whether or not he's good, great, or bad, we have to let him show us that. But going into that situation is the only time I can say my confidence is 0.
But I feel like the fact that he hasn't shown us anything tells us something.
What has he shown us?
Well, meaning this.
Okay.
Sometimes, Sal, if you ask somebody a question and they ignore you, that's the answer. Hey, you free tonight? You know, I got a dinner reservation at 7:30. Just wanted to see if you were available. Crickets. But she posted on IG and on Twitter.
Oh.
That told you the answer.
And it told me you were a stalker, too. Hello.
If Jordan Love wasn't even the backup quarterback to Aaron Rodgers, if he wasn't even the number 2, If Jordan Love, in practices which we haven't seen, is now coming out in reports that he's not playing well, if Jordan Love isn't even showing up, mind you, 29 of the last 30 quarterbacks that were taken in the first round since 2010 have all started at least one game week 1.
Facts.
Then maybe that's our answer. We don't need to see him play bad to have an answer, just like the guy or girl doesn't need to tell you, hey, no, I'm busy, for that to be your answer. Omission can also be an answer. No answer can also be an answer. So Jordan Love being omitted from number 2 on the depth chart can be our answer. Jordan Love's being omitted from receiving praise from the general manager and head coach can be our answer. If 29 out of 30 quarterbacks in the last decade drafted in the first round started at least one game, then I'm looking at you, Jordan Love, and saying, so you're the only, or you are one of one other quarterbacks that couldn't find a way to start just one game?
Yeah.
Now could, and the second point I'll make.
Okay.
You talk about the Packers, the Patriot system. If you don't, you'll sit or you will suck. Year one.
He's already went through that. He already cleared
Exactly.
that bar.
So I don't know if we
This
can
ain't the Patriots, though.
we can't put Jordan Love in the same category as Peyton Manning. I don't think we can put Jordan Love in the same category as other rookie first week starters.
Great point.
Because that's totally different. Jordan Love, it will have been 18 months since when you were drafted to potentially having to take your first start. Yes, it's a different game, but the hardest part is a change of the mind along with the change of the speed. So if you ain't ready in 18 months, big dog, then I'm still not convinced that you would have been ready.
Here's the thing. Do you really trust where he is on the depth chart? Like, you played before. I told you the story when I was getting recruited in high school to go to another school, one of many, but this one in particular. And then I said, okay, let's do it. Transfer schools. Got there, looked at my name on the depth chart, it was third.
Of course.
The hell am I doing third when your coach been in my house eating my mama hot water cornbread, talking about he good? Why am I third? Because you know you got to play that mental game with all of the rest of the personnel, including Aaron Rodgers. So, Aaron, we didn't call you before the draft. Like Philly called Carson Wentz and told him, Jalen Hurts, we were going to pick him. And Carson said, that's cool. They gave Carson Wentz the love and acknowledgement that they didn't even give Aaron Rodgers. So they draft Jordan Love, and Aaron Rodgers got to hit the tequila bottle. And he's on Pat McAfee, and he's talking all this craziness. And then he's like, that's fine. I'm just going to go out there and win MVP. You know what they tried to do all of a sudden? They drafted Jordan Love. They tried to draft him and hide him. Simple. They said, oh, he ain't going to even dress. Aaron, we made a mistake. They already knew this moment was coming after they saw Aaron Rodgers perform last year. So with that performance, I don't believe the depth chart because 2 months ago, he looked horrible again. What happened yesterday? He couldn't miss. Coaches are fanning him off. No, these dudes are frauds, man. They out here just playing PR games. Sorry, Jordan Love, you're caught up as collateral damage until Aaron Rodgers actually comes in to play. Now let's talk about the Suns. Absolutely rolling right now. They blew out the Nuggets last night to go up 2-0 in their series. Denver's head coach, Michael Malone, even said, quote, I feel like we quit tonight. Devin Booker had 18 points, and Chris Paul finished with 17 points and 15 assists with 0 turnovers. Clap that up. Joined now by Fox NBA analyst Chris Broussard. But who benefits more from the Suns' playoff success? Chris Paul or Devin Booker?
It's Devin Booker. But, fellas, I had to just answer the question first before I get to this topic. I love topics like this, Broussard, because topics like this let me go back to the early 2000s, the late 90s, when I personally fell in love with the game of basketball. When I would get back home and like when I really felt passionately in love with the game, so I can speak my passionate truth from true knowledge. The reason it's Devin Booker is because he still has so much pendulum to see swing. Chris Paul, many people think he's going to be the second, third, fourth greatest point guard of all time. Magic Johnson, Isaiah Thomas, Chris Paul. Magic Johnson, Chris Paul, Isaiah Thomas, etc. Maybe you're a fan of the Steve Nash Stocktons of the world, but either way, Chris Paul falls into your top 5 point guards of all time. We already conceded that Chris Paul was never going to get a ring. In our heads, we were like, okay, he's already around year 15. We're just going to go ahead and concede that he's not going to get a ring and stack him accordingly in the top 5. Whether they make a deep playoff run, he's not going to supersede Magic. He's still going to fall in the top 5 point guards of all time, second, third, fourth, depending on what you like, depending on the style of play you like. Devin Booker, on the other hand, I'm going to give y'all 2 names in the first 10 years of their career. When I look at Devin Booker, a deep playoff run or a championship can land him somewhere between the likes of Tracy McGrady to Kobe Bryant. Y'all remember the first 10 years of T-Mac and Kobe's career? There really was not much difference. Both were elite scorers. Both had 2 scoring titles. Both were all-stars. From 2000 to 2007, both made the all-star game several times. Remember, Kobe made 2 more all-star appearances, but Kobe came into the league a year prior. What was the primary difference between the two? Kobe had chips and went to chips. Kobe didn't have no regular season MVPs. Kobe didn't even have any finals MVPs. Let's not get it twisted. In the first 10 years of their career, they were eerily similar. Both were icons. I had T-Max. They both had the shoes. Both were dudes. The difference was one was a dude that won, and one was just a dude. Devin Booker making a deep playoff run will start to lean him towards the side of a dude that won, not just being a dude. We know Devin Booker's capable of dropping 70. We know he's capable of scoring points. We know he's capable of leading the league in scoring. At least we can assume that based upon what we have seen him do. But is he capable of doing all of that and winning? And when I look at the decades ago of basketball, there are several great scorers. But are you a great scorer that can also win? Imagine the difference in how we look at Carmelo Anthony versus Dwayne Wade. Carmelo Anthony scored more points than D-Wade. Carmelo Anthony's still playing. D-Wade retired a little bit ago. But D-Wade won a chip. And not only did he win a chip, he won a chip first. I'm going to get to that in my second lap, in my second layer. But Devin Booker needs a deep playoff run, needs a finals appearance, Western Conference or NBA Finals, more than CP3, because he actually has more at stake at this point in time.
I'm not mad at you, Acho. Or let me say this. I'm not that mad at you. All right, that was a pretty nice argument. And to your point, there was a great illustration with Kobe and McGrady. You could throw Vince Carter in there too, right?
Yes, sir.
Same type of thing, but he wasn't winning, so that was good. But I'm going to go, it depends on how deep they go. Because, see, I don't have Chris Paul rated as high as you do. And I know you, I guess, let me introduce you to this guy named Steph Curry. All right? Who you just left out of your top 5.
That's on me. That's on me.
The top 4 are set. Top 4 are set at point guard, and Chris Paul's not in it. I don't know very many people that will put him in the top 4 above Magic, Steph, Oscar Robertson, and Isaiah Thomas.
Yes, sir.
That's the top 4. Chris Paul's in the discussion right now for 5th with John Stockton, Jason Kidd. Some might say Steve Nash. We can go back to Walt Frazier, stuff like that. But he's in the discussion. It's a group together. But none of them led teams to championships. All right, Walt Frazier won them with the Knicks, but of the guys, Stockton, Kidd won one when he was much older, not playing at the level that Chris Paul is right now when he was in Dallas. So my point is this. If the Suns get to the finals, and so especially if they win the finals, Chris Paul will benefit most. Because Chris Paul, I think, would be locked in at number 5 if they at least get to the finals, definitely if they win the finals. He's the locked in at the top 5 that puts him ahead of Stockton, J. Kidd, all those guys. But if they, to your point, if they just say get to the Western Conference Finals and don't get to the finals, then I do think it's Devin Booker. Because Chris Paul's been to the Western Conference Finals. With Houston, he got hurt, actually, missed the last 2 games, but he's been that deep. So that really doesn't change his legacy. Whereas Devin Booker, I agree with everything you said about him. He would now, his numbers, he's averaged 25 and 5 assists over the last 4 years. But a lot of people look at those as empty calories because they never have been to the playoffs until this year. But if they get to the conference finals and you look at it, you go, hold up. He was the MVP of the series with the Lakers, taking out LeBron. And, maybe he's the MVP of a few more series or this series going forward. That's when, as you said, he begins to move ahead of all the young boys, Jason Tatum, and all the young guys that are his age. You'd have to put him near the top of that list. So I think it depends on how far you go.
Man, I'm coming in to break the tie right here, and it's not even that difficult to break this tie. It's CP3. He's going to benefit more from this situation in playoff success. Let me tell you why. He already has a legacy-defining narrative that he's trying to erase. Now, none of these guys' legacies are written in stone right now, not written in permanent ink. But there's a pencil out there that Chris Paul's trying to flip over to grab the eraser and say, oh, I know I've only been to the Western Conference Finals, but watch me now. So that's going to change the narrative going forward. That's a huge benefit versus Devin Booker that even you said, Acho, it's kind of like a pendulum swinging. It could go a lot of places, but right now, it doesn't matter. He has so much more runway in front of him versus Chris Paul. A lot of that hay is already out the barn. So as the quote goes, it's easier to raise whole children than to fix broken adults. Guess what? It's easier to let Devin Booker keep doing Devin Booker things and something good can happen than to say, hey, Chris, all them issues before, hamstring here, hamstring there, inadequate play, whatever there. You know what? We're going to change your legacy. But he has a moment right now to erase that. So we're just looking at this equation differently. The way that I'm adding it up, you guys are actually subtracting. And it's kind of interesting. I say, look, give them their props, and we'll see where they land in terms of historical legacies. Y'all saying, basically, he's only going to land here, so then let's see if we're going to give him their props. That's not the benefit equation. The benefit equation is give me my money, and then I'll tell you what tax bracket I'm in. Y'all talking about why give him his money. We already know where he's going to land, and that's not the way to look at this. Devin Booker, you got a lot in front of you. Chris Paul, you don't, and this one means a lot more.
So, Stel, you're exactly right. You calling me out exactly how I look at it. I just look at it very simply like Broussard. Broussard, you're saying if Chris Paul wins a chip, he's solidified at 5th. But you've already said he's somewhere at like 4th to 6th or 7th. So we're talking about moving 1 to 2 spots all the time. When I think of Steph Curry, it's weird. I don't necessarily think of him as a true point like I think of Allen Iverson because of how many points he scores. Whereas when you think about Chris Paul, he's dropping 15 assists with no turnovers in a game. When I think about Steph Curry, he's not necessarily doing that. So I didn't factor Steph Curry into the point guard equation. I think of him as those scoring point guards. I'd put him in a different category. Quick aside. But when you think about Devin Booker, y'all, look at the young superstars in the game right now. Trae Young, Luka Doncic, Ja Morant, Jason Tatum, Zion, LaMelo, Devin Booker, Spidey Mitchell, Jamal Murray. It's going to be a race to who gets the chip first. Let's go 03 draft class. D-Wade, Melo, Bosh, LeBron. D-Wade won that chip in 06, and he was instantly in a category differently than Carmelo Anthony. LeBron was a superstar, so he was transcendent. He was in his own. But he was instantly in a category different than Bosh and different than Melo. Then all of a sudden, LeBron goes to his chips. And now, D-Wade, LeBron, but Melo is still way, way, way far behind. Not because he wasn't scoring, not because his team wasn't making it to the playoffs, but because he didn't reel to win the real one. Broussard, when I think about Devin Booker, is he going to be in a conversation with Tatum and Luka and Zion and Ja, or can he differentiate himself like D-Wade did? And forever now, we look at Melo and we look at D-Wade, and we look at them differently. Yes, Melo has more points. Melo may have been a better scorer for longer, but we look at them differently because one got a chip and one got a chip first. I think Devin Booker will be looked at vastly differently than Chris Paul will be looked at based upon getting a chip.
I'm going to tell you how your answer can definitely be right, because you mentioned D-Wade. D-Wade didn't just win a chip as Shaq's sidekick. D-Wade was the finals MVP. D-Wade was the one, and even though Shaq was still really good, 20 points, 10 rebounds a game that season, I believe. But D-Wade in the playoffs especially, in those finals especially, carried them. Now, let's say they get to the finals. It's hard to picture them beating Brooklyn.
Of course.
But let's say they do it. Let's say they win the championship. If Devin Booker gives you between 27 and 30 points a game, and he is just roasting Kyrie or playing even with Kevin Durant, whatever it may be, and they win, that's when no matter what CP3 does, you know, within reason, CP3 will be his 18 and 10 assists. Devin Booker would probably benefit more. In the moment, we would all feel sentimental. We would love CP. We would, oh, it's great. He finally got his ring, blah, blah, blah. But going forward, Devin Booker would be the guy. If he does that, now that's asking a lot.
True.
But if he does that type of stuff in the finals, then you're right. Now his legacy is just a matter of, okay, how high can this guy go it would kind of be similar to D-Wade in Miami at that point.
Yeah, but it's not just how high he can go, it's also how low can you go. And Devin Booker, even if he drops right now, he's already exceeding expectations, even if they falter going forward. But still, he has room to recover. CP3 doesn't have that same runway, that same room to recover. So this is almost a stopgap, as your financial consultant would tell you. Like, the market's going down. We're just going to stop once it hits this point. Chris Paul is in that position right now where you got to stop the bleeding. And this year, it looks like he's finally going to stop the bleeding. He's only one game over 500 in his playoff career. Yeah, that's including all what y'all seeing right now in terms of Phoenix playoff success. 6 first-round exits in his playoff career. He's 14th all-time in assists, but one of only 2 players in the top 14 that has not been to an NBA Finals, him and Steve Nash. So it's crazy when you show me the full screen about T-Mac and Kobe. I want to see Acho's face, because the only thing I want to push back on with that full screen is Kobe was a year older in terms of play. The injury-riddled years for T-Mac, 1 year he only started 2 games, 1 year 40 games because he stayed injured. And also the fact that Kobe's reaction when he finally won a ring without Shaq, let me know that them other 3 rings he won with Shaq, we were counting them more than he was. Because Kobe was elated that he finally did it without Shaq. That's not to say that people didn't regard Tracy McGrady highly or Kobe a little more, but I don't think it was a wide gap in terms of who was having a better career in '06. Remember, this is Smush Parker days. Remember, this is the Lakers going through their dry spell. It was dark out here, even though maybe nationally people still looked at Kobe in a higher light. My last point is this, simply. So all these assumptions and what-ifs and where he gonna land in legacy, this is why I don't go to the barbershop. Because y'all just talking in circles. Why don't y'all do this? Just give them their damn props and give them their damn gold that they've earned and see where that lands them. But right now, y'all keep saying, well, if we give him this and we don't give him this, then he gonna go here. That's not how the game is played. Chris Paul could benefit the most, because right now, he's been given the least. Watch it speak for yourself, Marcel Swati. Emmanuel Acho, forever your name. Let's head to Seattle, where Russell Wilson is at Seahawks camp. Seahawks, after an offseason that was filled with reports of frustration and trade rumors. Pete Carroll said they're on good terms, but the report says the 2 sides could be in line to give it a shot for another 2 years, and the situation feels like a, quote, short-term marriage. Heard of those. So, Acho, should Russell Wilson want to be in Seattle long-term?
No, and he shouldn't, because Russell Wilson's level of commitment should match the Seahawks' level of commitment. Let's go back to 2017 when the Seahawks were contemplating trading Russell Wilson prior to that NFL draft. Rumors had it because they were interested in Baker Mayfield. Why would you, Russell Wilson, want to be committed to a team that they every year check their commitment levels to you? March, we still committed to Russ? Okay, we'll check next year. March 2022, we still committed to Russ? Okay, we'll check again next year. You can't commit to somebody long-term if their commitment to you is on a yearly or annual basis or a monthly basis. The other thing I look at is, in the NFL, organizations always going to do what's best for them. Always and forever going to do what's best for them.
Message.
Russ, you got to do what's best for you, big dog. Like, they'll let you cook one day, then they won't let you cook the next. They want to run the ball one day, they don't want to get pass happy the next. They want to solidify the defensive line, they don't want to solidify the secondary. Like, they're always trying to figure out what is in their best interest. You, Russell Wilson, have to figure out what is in your best interest. Now, truth be told, you're on a team with a top 5 management in the NFL, the Seattle Seahawks, as far as head coach, general manager, winning organization, and culture. You have a generational talent at wide receiver. I don't know if he will be a generational wide receiver, but a generational talent at wide receiver in DK Metcalf, one of the fastest 100-meter runners, including track and field runners in America. So you have a generational talent at wide receiver.
And you want to hijack this segment? You were doing fine. I was being respectful, slow ass in track, fast in football. Fast in football, slow in track.
And you also have Tyler Lockett, who is just a stud, humble, and also has been a career overachiever. Shout out to him. So, Russ, can you really go somewhere that's better? That's the question you got to ask yourself. Can you go to an organization where you can also find top 5 management as far as a Super Bowl winning head coach, plus a great general manager, plus a generational talent at receiver, plus a star overachieving wide receiver? To me, the answer is no. However, Russ, you got to calculate that annually, because the Seahawks are calculating whether they want you or not annually.
Oh, man. Ugh. Yes, he should want to be committed to them. Short term, long term, any term. Russell Wilson to Seattle. First of all, what are your options? Oh, you gave us that little list you had, 4 teams I would like to go there. Are you there? No. You know why? Because the grass is not greener, and also, this is the best situation for you. Stay still, brother. As Drake said, God's plan. Like, stay still right here. This is the plan. Wasn't Seattle the flavor of the month for years? Remember, not even a decade ago, Seattle, 12th man. I felt bad because Kansas City is allowed to stadium in the NFL. I don't care what anybody says. I don't give a damn whatever the noise meter they have and Richter scale. Look, shut it. Go to Arrowhead and play, and then go to Seattle and play. You're going to know the difference. So anyway, I got mad that they started talking all this talk about how the 12th man and Seattle this. And I was like, new flavor of the month. Now all of a sudden you don't want to be there? The same Seattle team that has allowed you to have a top 5 rushing offense in 6 of your 9 seasons. Let's not even talk about number 1 defense, number 1 defense, number 1 defense, number 1 defense. Yep. How many times I got to say it? Here's a stat for you. Since Russell Wilson came into the league, no quarterback has won more games than Russell Wilson and his team when they score less than 20 points. Oh, you want to go somewhere else when they're going to test you, make Russ cook? Now, I know he can play. I know he's a baller. Last year, he had his best statistical season. But don't act like you haven't had the support. And the support not only from the running game, the support from the defensive personnel, but also from that organization, the winning personnel upstairs. So I just don't see the issues with Seattle. Russell, make it make sense. Joined now by Fox NFL analyst Bucky Brooks. So, Bucky, should Russell Wilson want to be in Seattle long term?
I mean, I think the bigger question, should the Seattle Seahawks want Russell Wilson to be there long term based on how he's playing? I know we've talked about this before. Russell Wilson tried to really use his leverage or make this a play. But this, I told you, was about money. Now we're at a situation where all those teams that he threw out there, they're like, nah, Russ, you stand with us. But Russell has to play well enough to really deserve to be their starting quarterback long term. And I know what you're saying, Acho. How could this be? Why would they ever move on from Russell Wilson? The reason why is because they've hit the ceiling in terms of how far they can go with Russell Wilson as their playmaker. This team was much better when Russell Wilson was the game manager. And even though there's a faction of the fan base that is saying, let Russ cook, whenever Russ cooks, the meals are burned in the kitchen. We have seen it time and time again. Last year, they started the season. Let Russ cook. All right, Russ, we got you in the kitchen cooking. They averaged 34 points a game. He was over 300 passing yards per game, passer rating 117. But the more they cook, the more the meals start coming back to the kitchen. Last half of the year, we saw them average only a little bit over 20 points per game. Passer rating is at 89. The last 9 games, he only averaged 200 passing yards per game. So the bigger question is, Russ has to say, look, I want to go back, but I need to go back knowing that we need to play a certain way, not only to protect the team, but to protect me from being exposed as the playmaker that I'm really not.
Okay, see, Bucky.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
You must have been off too long.
Yes.
You coming in here with too much heat.
Yes.
No, there can't be yes. So Russ has started for 9 seasons. We came in together in 2012, so I believe he would have just finished year 9. He's been a Pro Bowler for 7 of the 9 seasons. Russell Wilson has started for 9 seasons, and he has never lost more than 7 games. He's never even gone 500, nor below 500. Even our beloved Dak Prescott has gone 500. Even Aaron Rodgers has gone below 500. We have plenty of beloved individuals who have gone 500 or below, and Russell Wilson has never done that. Pro Bowler 7 out of his 9 years. Russell Wilson has started 144 consecutive games. That would rank him 6th all time. It's currently the longest streak in the NFL. He's the 6th all time as far as consecutive starts, but he's been sacked 40-plus times the last 8 years. No quarterback in NFL history was sacked 40-plus times in 8 years, period. Is Russell Wilson contributing to that? Yes. Is he totally to blame for that? No. So with that being said, like, Bucky, I understand coming in with some heat. I understand coming in with some fire. I get all that. But if you're Russell Wilson and you're Pro Bowler 7 out of your 9 years, you've never been worse than 9-7, you were just 12-4, you looking like, look now, y'all can't get better than me either. So really the simple answer is, if you, Bucky, are saying the Seahawks can't get better than Russ, and Russ is saying, well, y'all can't get better than me, maybe they should just find a way to make it work. Because Seahawks ain't really getting much better than Russell Wilson either now if we just keeping it a buck.
Ooh.
Key.
I mean, look, I can say a lot of things about Russell Wilson, and it's great that he hasn't had a losing season. But is that really all because of him?
No.
Or more so because of the culture and the environment that they did? Because the one thing that I know is when they run the football and play defense, they win, and they consistently win. You talked about those two talented receivers that he has on the outside, DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, respectively. They're a top-5 duo. You think about what Pete Carroll is. I think we can say that Pete Carroll is maybe a top-5 coach in the National Football League. We can say a lot of things about what Russell Wilson wants, but I don't know if he can get it much better than how he has it in Seattle. Because remember this, and everybody loves to point out the fact that Russell Wilson has been sacked 40-plus times in each of the 8 seasons, and he's 100 more sacks than the next closest guy. But some of that is on Russ.
Correct.
Because when we talk about Russell cooking, Russell is not a quick rhythm thrower. Russell is a run-around, stand-like guy that likes to run around, make plays, and throw it over the head of the defense. It is hard for any offensive line to protect for a guy that doesn't play on rhythm. And so Russell can't come back. He will come back to a system that is more structured, that will help him. That is part of the reason why Pete Carroll went and got a new offensive coordinator. Structure is what Russell needs. He can't freelance and freestyle and produce platinum hits. He needs structure to help him.
Say it again, man. I'm with you, Bucky, and I'm going to echo what you said and say even more. It's a thin line between love and hate, and it's a thin line at the quarterback position between being off script and just undisciplined. Like, be real. Like, it's cute when it works out, but it ain't cute when you called something that could have worked, but it didn't work out because you are not disciplined. Now, we don't know how many of those grenades Pete Carroll jumps on for Russell Wilson, but he better be careful because Pete might let him out. And it's a sad equation. I've been there before. Me personally, seen other guys. When the team looks at you play and you balling, but they say less of you means more for us. Think about that. Like when Russ ain't cooking, they kind of cooking. And when he starts cooking, well, they smelling some burnt chips, and they don't know what's going on out there. This is not a shot, but damn, it's going to sound like one. Russell Wilson has been called out for losing a Super Bowl before. Like, think about that. Like, imagine it, and he doesn't bear all of that weight, and he shouldn't. But who else can you say that about? Like, damn, like people really walk up to him and be like, oh, you lost us a Super Bowl. Now, whatever you want to do with that in terms of mental and emotional content, you do with it. But that is somewhere on his resume. What else is on his resume? Oh, my God. Only one other quarterback spends more time in the pocket than Russell Wilson. That looks like the offensive line is doing a good job, to the point where the offensive line was better ranked this year than they were when they won the Super Bowl and when they lost the Super Bowl. So make it make sense, Russell Wilson. But here's something that makes sense. I need Acho's face up here because these are the reactions.
Please.
Bucky said that his duo at receivers, Metcalf and Lockett, are top 5. They're actually number 2 in the NFL in terms of dynamic duos last year. Let's talk about how Russell Wilson has the #1 rushing attack since being drafted in the NFL, and he's had the #1 scoring defense since being drafted in the NFL his entire career. Sounds like Russell Wilson had a lot of help, and Seattle may be the place that continues to help him. My last point is, since I got you in that grave right now, I just want to keep throwing a little dirt. From week 10 to the end of the season, and we know how the season ended. Oh, that was a horrible playoff game. Let's talk about Russell Wilson at 25th yards per game. Let's talk about how the Bears scored more points per game than the Seahawks in that span. Let's talk about how Andy Dalton had more touchdown passes than Russell Wilson going down the stretch. How Mike Glennon and Drew Lock both had more passing yards than Russell Wilson. Mitch Trubisky had a better passer rating in that span when the playoffs are on the line, when they fighting for their lives, home field, etc. Go ahead, Acho. I'm listening.
All that sounds good.
Oh, you do.
It sounds great. But it's real simple.
What?
Russell Wilson is statistically better at his job than Pete Carroll is at his job, than John Snyder, the general manager, is at his job, than any other Seattle Seahawk is at their jobs. Russell Wilson was the 3rd best quarterback in the NFL last year. He was the 3rd best in the NFL last year. Pete Carroll wasn't the 3rd best head coach. We talk about Pete Carroll the year before Russell Wilson arrived, 7-9. Now, I just told y'all, 9 straight years Russell Wilson has gone without a losing season. The year before he arrived, they were 7-9. The defense was still top 10, 7th in yards allowed, 9th in points allowed, but they were 7-9. Russ shows up, defense improves, but we all know football's intertwined, and the football team improves. 2 years later, they're in a Super Bowl. win the Super Bowl. A year later, they're in a Super Bowl again. So I'm not even madly in love with Russ. I like the Russ. We came out the draft together, all that good stuff. If I see him, I dap him up. I'm not even like a Russ defendant like I am a LeBron James. But I'm not so crazy as to look at Russ, who's been a Pro Bowler 7 out of 9 years. Can we say that Pete Carroll is coached at a Pro Bowl level, if you will, 7 out of 9 years? To be a Pro Bowler, you got to be top 3 in your conference. Can we say that Pete Carroll's been a top 3 coach in the NFC for 7 of the last 9 years? I don't think so. No Seattle Seahawk has been. So if we're looking at Russ, Russ is better at what he does than Pete Carroll is at what he does, than John Snyder is at what he does, than any other Seahawk is at what they do. I agree with all the stats you said, Sal, because you can't dispute a stat, but you also can't dispute a fact. And Russ is better at what he does than anybody else that wears Seattle Seahawks colors.
Well, the only reason Russ is better at what he does than maybe some other people in the building is because Pete Carroll knows how to manage Russell Wilson. Every time he says, Russell, you run around and throw it, cool. Nah, we're better when we run this. And even though Russell is saying, no, but I'm ready to be one of those dudes. I'm ready to be the Aaron Rodgers type. Put it on my shoulders. The statistics tell us the team is worse when Russ does more. And so there's something to that. Maybe Russell can't put it all on his shoulders and get them to the finish line because as I've seen it, since they turned this team over and they moved away from the Legion of Boom and made it all about Russell, they're not going to the championship game. They're not going to any more Super Bowls. They're not a more dominant team. Yes, they're good enough to get to the tournament, but they're not dancing for long. And so when I'm Pete Carroll, I'm looking at this quarterback, and if he's really what we say he is, the ultimate playmaker, can I at least get to the championship game? Because I can say a lot of things about Aaron Rodgers, but at least Aaron Rodgers is getting me to the championship game. He ain't winning it, but he's getting me there. Russ ain't even getting me to the dance. I need Russ to get me to the dance. And if he can't get me to the dance, then I got to give it to the running back and the defense because the team carries Russ maybe a little more than Russ carries the team.
Yeah, think about it, man. Since Russell been there, Pete Carroll, boy, I'm going to say it for you, Pete, because I know you're trying to keep your composure. First rushing attack, #1 in the NFL since you've been there, Russ. #1 scoring defense, #1 total defense, and when we were winning, you weren't cooking. Now, all of a sudden, we letting you cook a little bit, and now we ain't winning. You are 3-6 in your last 9 playoff appearances. You better hope we stay married to you, because you certainly not in position to divorce us.
The Nets can take a commanding 3-0 lead against the Bucs tonight. Now, Brooklyn has been dominating Milwaukee, and they've been doing it without James Harden, who is also out again tonight. Giannis, 2-time MVP, but he's only shooting 20% from the free throw line, and he's never won a playoff series after losing the first 2 games. What's up, Giannis? What you gonna do? Chris Broussard is back. But Marcellus, is Giannis' legacy on the line tonight?
No, it's not. Think about it. Most people are predicting they're going to lose, right? Yeah, they're going to lose. All right. So it's already defined. It's just more of the same. Like, here go Giannis again. Like, when you're going to redefine it, then I think it will be defined. Because right now, we have no resistance until we see something different from Giannis and the Bucs. Look at Giannis. 4 playoff series wins in 8 career seasons. 3 of his 4 career series wins versus the 6th seed or worse. So we already know what Giannis is right now. We're hoping to see something different from Giannis. We're hoping to see something different from the Bucs. We're hoping that they can get to the conference finals like they did one time and hopefully even go farther than the conference finals. But until we see that, no, it's not even legacy defining. It's not even legacy on the line. It's more of the same of Giannis until we see different.
So I think his legacy is on the line because I think we're going to officially put Giannis in a bucket. If he loses this series, especially if he loses it handily, we're going to have to put him in the Russell Westbrook bucket. The bucket of you are an incredible talent, an incredible regular season talent. You're an MVP caliber talent, but many people have questioned, Russell Westbrook, is your game too limited to win a NBA championship? Broussard, you're looking at me crazy, but you know you've heard the questions from astute NBA analysts to opinionists to everybody in between. And I question the same thing. Same question that I make for Lamar Jackson. Playing the game with this style of play, fault Greg Roman is talking Lamar Jackson, can you win a chip? Playing the game in this style of play, Giannis, can you win a chip? Can you get past the Nets? It's huge legacy defining. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. But if you fool me 3 times, come on now, Giannis, you better fool us for the 3rd time. Best record in the NBA 2 years ago, get bounced. Best record in the NBA last year and cumulatively over the 2 previous years. Don't even make it to the Eastern Conference Finals. Now again, you're a top 3 seed or a top 4 seed, and you show up and you get not only beaten but embarrassed. I think his legacy is completely on the line.
Wow. Acho, I couldn't disagree more.
Really?
No! This dude is 26 years old. I'm going to go back a couple segments with what Marcellus said when we were talking about the last NBA topic. No, Devin Booker. Giannis is 26 years old. He's only in his 8th season. He's only been a star for 5 seasons. Yes, in the moment, he will take a hit. We won't consider him the best player in the world, or even in that discussion anymore. You're right about that. He probably won't win another MVP award, even though it's a regular season award. He probably won't win one until he at least gets a team to the finals. But legacy? No. He's got way too much time to change things. And I'm going to hit you where it hurts, Acho. Your man, LeBron.
Okay,
Let's look at where LeBron was at this point in his career. Giannis is in his 8th year. LeBron played 7 years in Cleveland, but LeBron was a star from day one. Giannis has developed into a star, and so he's really only been a star for 5 years. But let's go back to LeBron. They win 66 games in 2009. That's the most in the league. #1 seed. He's the MVP. First-time MVP. They get beat by Orlando, which, like Cleveland, had 1 star, Dwight Howard. Then the next year, they win 61 games. #1 seed, I believe. He's the MVP again, back-to-back. Sound familiar? They lose to Boston in a strange series because LeBron didn't finish strong. We all remember that. They were up 2-1, and then he didn't finish strong. Then he goes to Miami, joins 2 superstars, and loses again. And he loses because he melted down. It wasn't D-Wade. It wasn't Bosh. It was LeBron. That was 8 years into his career, just like Giannis. How is that any worse than what Giannis may go through if they get swept?
Let me tell you. CD, the difference is this, big dog. Up until LeBron James lost to the Mavericks and Dirk, again, the finals, I attended that one because your boy from Dallas. Up until he lost there, LeBron James was never the limiting reactant for his team's success. Remember LeBron James against Tayshaun Prince and the Pistons scores 25 of the last 27 points, and we're like, dang, this dude LeBron goes crazy. We've never seen Giannis really take over in points like that. I believe it was you that came on the show just last week or on another show when you said this. The problem with Giannis is he's not even the most clutch player on his team. With a minute left to go and you need a bucket, you're going to Chris Middleton. I believe that was you that said that. LeBron was never the limiting reactant. When you talk about his 60-win Warriors teams that go in 07, who's on that team? Zydrunas Ilgauskas? Daniel Gibson? LeBron was never supposed to be the limiting reactant, whereas if you look at the Bucs, Giannis is the limiting reactant. Like, Giannis is you're 2 for 10 from the free throw line, and the first word is free? What in life are you 50% on is free? Like, Giannis is the limiting reactant to the Buccaneers' success, whereas LeBron James was never the limiting reactant for the Heat's success until Dallas. Then you're exactly right. Come that Dallas game, we were all like, oh, LeBron, your legacy just took a hit. I think this parallel is this is Giannis's Dallas moment. Not because it's the finals, but because in the Dallas game is where Dallas series is when we said, wait a second, LeBron, you're the reason y'all losing. We didn't do that when he was in Cleveland in 07 playing the Spurs. We said, wait a second, you the reason y'all losing. For the Buccaneers, it's now 3 years where we're looking at Giannis like, you let Jimmy Butler outperform you last year? You only scoring 18 points and KD scoring 32 in 33 minutes. Giannis, you're the reason y'all losing. And that is why I think it's legacy defining like it was for LeBron James when they lost to the Mavericks in 11.
Slight difference, little details, but in general, it's the same thing. In general, the point was this. LeBron had time, and we know he's obviously changed it. Now he's in the GOAT conversation. Giannis still has time to get in the GOAT conversation, and I'm going to piggyback on what Marcellus said.
Again.
We know, though, what Giannis is right now. I mean, we really do. There's a former superstar player who was a closer who still works in the league, has told me numerous times now, dating back to last year, Giannis is a 2. Giannis is the second guy because he can't close a series for you. Like you said, it's Chris Middleton is their closer. Giannis needs a Kyrie, a Dame Dollar, a Steph Curry, somebody like that to carry him. And so to score when he's not, when they're in the playoff series to help him out, he needs a second superstar like LeBron needed, although LeBron is not as limited offensively as Giannis. But we know what Giannis is. So I at least at this point in his career, so that's why I don't think, like, there's no revelations coming tonight. If he can't hit the jump shot, if he scores 25 points, misses a bunch of free throws, and they lose, we're going to say, okay, right now, this is what Giannis is.
But here's why I differ, and I hear everything you're saying. You said that Giannis is a number 2. The reason his legacy is on the line tonight and in this series is because he can prove he's not. You say there are no revelations, but what if there is? If there is a revelation, that changes the legacy. Because right now, his legacy, whether we like it or not, is he is a number 2. He is not a closer. His game is offensively limited. But what if he were to start proving, if there's 47 seconds left in the game, Bucs are down by 1, Giannis gets the ball, he gets a bucket, KD goes back down, he gets a bucket, 20 seconds left in the game, Bucs again are down by 1, Giannis, time expires, he hits a jumper, not a driver, he hits a jumper to seal the game. All of a sudden, that's one more tick, like, maybe he is a closer. Then he does that again, game 4, I think his legacy can change if he does make those type of plays.
Beef.
Well, I think we're almost in fantasy land now. Like, look, he can do that for a game. I mean, really, he can hit jumpers. You remember in the regular season when they beat the Nets and they had DeAndre Jordan backing off him, he was hitting jumpers. So he may have a game or 2 or 3 when he is hitting the outside shot, but it's going to come back around because he can do it for a few games. He can't do it for an entire series or a postseason. And so we know what he is. Now, in the future, he might get there. But right now, no. And that's why I don't think his legacy is on the line. Right now is on the line, but not his legacy.
Exactly. I think Acho agrees with us, but he's putting up an amazing argument in rhetoric. He kept saying limited reacted. There's no limit to his rhetoric, but there's a limit to the logic he applied to this one, but he's cool with it. I get it. Why his legacy is not on the line? Because in failure, it's just more of the same Giannis. But in success, even if we see him go out there and hit those clutch buckets, you said, Acho, we're going to say, do it again. We're going to move the goalposts. We're not going to believe our lying eyes. So guess what? His legacy's not on the line. He needs to do a lot more of the positive for us to even believe the positive we haven't seen yet. So that's the problem. That's why nothing's going to happen in failure or success. Good luck to you, Giannis. Let's talk about this because Acho brought up a great point. He said his legacy feels like it's in the bucket. Well, this is how you hop out that bucket because taking it to my sport, there were 2 players that their legacy seemed to be in a bucket, and they hopped up out of that bad bucket. One is Peyton Manning. Remember Peyton Manning? Took him to age 30, where people were like, at 29, when he turned 29, people were like, dog, Peyton Manning, you were overrated. You're never going to win the big one, et cetera, et cetera. Then at age 30, he did it. But even a better example is John Elway. Now, Giannis be lucky if he could go down in history like John Elway went down in history. But damn, you want to talk about the bucket he was in to the age of 37? And then finally, something happened. And it's interesting you bring that up, Broussard, because a lot of people tell me the same thing about Giannis. He ain't really the driving force if you're going to win a championship. He's a number 2. And John Elway was like, no, I am the driving force. He just couldn't find that championship. Then finally, hooked up with Terrell Davis, had a legit running game, went back-to-back, changed his narrative, changed his legacy, and hopped out that bucket. Good luck to you, Giannis. You got a few years before you got to get out that bucket. My Clippers need a win tonight in Game 2. Yes, we do. Tie it up 1-1 against the Jazz. And after the Game 1 loss, Kawhi Leonard said there was no excuse for losing their 13-point halftime lead. Paul George scored 20 points, but he was not playoff P, shooting a disappointing 4 for 17. Acho had to go pick up his Emmy, so he'll be back tomorrow with the Emmy Acho. So I got to bring in Fox NBA analyst Slick Ric Bucher. So, Slick, who's under more pressure in Game 2, PG or Kawhi Leonard?
When you mentioned playoff P, is that a good playoff P or a bad playoff? At this point, I'm not sure that that's a compliment to call him that if he shows up as playoff P because it's been so disappointing. There's no question that the pressure is on Kawhi. Kawhi is the alpha of this team. He may be a quiet alpha, but he is the alpha. He's the architect of this team. And if you look, yes, I prepared a full screen.
Oh, here we go.
If you look at performances, in round one against the Dallas Mavericks, let's take a look at Kawhi Leonard and his shooting in the games that they won versus the games that they lost. Dramatic difference. He always delivered a little bit, but he really delivered in an extraordinary way in the games that they won. On the other hand, Paul George actually gave you more in losses than in wins. So at this point, I look at Paul George as simply a complimentary player. The best contributions he gave in Game 6 and Game 7 was as a rebounder in Game 6 and as an assist maker in Game 7. That's what he is. And when it comes to pressure, I don't know about you guys, but to me, if you've got to be the scorer, and as Kawhi was in not missing a game in the fourth quarter in that Dallas series, that's where and when you have to deliver, and you have to deliver by putting the ball in the basket. To me, that carries far more pressure than just giving me the energy where I'm going to defend, I'm going to rebound, and I'm going to make sure that the open guy gets the ball. That's Paul George's role now at this point with this team when they're successful. Kawhi is the guy who has to deliver the buckets, and that's why I say there's more pressure on him.
Well, I can understand that, but I think there's more pressure on PG because if Kawhi falters and doesn't deliver those buckets, we've already seen Kawhi deliver those buckets. So we're not going to necessarily question Kawhi and his greatness as much as we're going to question Paul George and his goodness. Like, people are going to start to say, are you enough to work with Kawhi Leonard? Because Kawhi Leonard made it work with Kyle Lowry, didn't he? So you're not Kyle Lowry level? You can't get over that high jump bar? You're not a better player, Paul George, than Kyle Lowry? Interesting. We saw it work before when he wasn't even the biggest member of the Big Three when he was in San Antonio, but still, he made it work there. So wait a minute. All points are towards you, Paul George, and not being adequate enough to work with Kawhi Leonard, two-time MVP in the finals and two-time champion. So it's interesting. I look deeper into the numbers. You can look and see that you even pointed this out. We get more from Paul George in losses than we do in wins. But let's flip that coin over. Plus minus. And you and I were texting about this and talking about this. Isn't it weird that in plus minus, Paul George only has 2 games so far in the playoffs with a minus, and Kawhi Leonard has 4? So let's talk about in total impact and all the contributions to the game. It seems like Paul George may have some of those countless stats that they talk about. Some of the things that you can't go out there and measure, but still has in terms of presence. So Paul George is simple as this. He is clutch. He's not playoff P as he advertises, but he's not pandemic P as you guys try to counterpunch with. Paul George ranks first in the NBA in fourth quarter points. First. That's right. But he's also 5th among players right now in terms of points per game in that same fourth quarter. Paul George delivers. He's just not delivering consistently enough for everyone to say playoff P, but dare you if you call him pandemic P.
Let me settle this tie, and the tie goes to Marcellus. The pressure's on Paul George for this reason. Kawhi Leonard's a made man. No matter what happens tonight, Kawhi Leonard still has 2 championships.
Thank you.
He still has 2 finals MVPs.
Thank you.
Yeah, he may take a hit in the moment. We'll say, oh, he had a bad game. Heck, he had a bad series, right? But nobody's docking him. He's still pretty much an all-time great. And whereas you say he had a bad series or he was bad in this one postseason, we are questioning Paul George's entire postseason career. All right, and Marcellus gave some stuff about him being clutch in the fourth quarter. He's not in the playoffs. We all know it. He's got 12 games. This is an astonishing statistic. He's got 12 games in his playoff career where he shot 25% or less. All right, in the last 3 games total, he's shooting 32%. Paul George, while Kawhi's a made man, Paul George, we remember him shooting and hitting the side of the backboard last year. All right, Paul George, we remember him scoring 5 points in the decisive game against Utah, ironically, when he was in Oklahoma City and they lost in 6. 5 points. He was in the MVP conversation during the regular season. Paul George is the one whose nickname we're making fun of. All right? In playoff P? No, it's way off P. Pandemic P. Nobody's making fun of Kawhi's nickname, the Claw. All right? So Paul George is the one. Rick, your screen supports this. Kawhi delivers. He might have a bad game, yes. But in general, we will have to say Kawhi delivers. If Paul George doesn't deliver tonight, we're going to say, that's Paul George. He just can't get it done.
But here's the great distinction. If Kawhi Leonard does or doesn't deliver, that determines whether you win or you lose. And if the pressure is on the Clippers to win in even this series, then the pressure is on Kawhi Leonard to deliver that victory, because at this point, yeah, we got all kinds of nicknames for Paul George. You mentioned it, 12 games, shooting under 25%, and you guys are still out there going, well, you know what, he's got to deliver. Like you expect that to happen? You're betting on a horse that isn't likely to win. So I don't see where the pressure is. Paul George, the pressure is on him to be something other than he's already demonstrated to us that he is. And this idea, this is what and Marcellus, I understand. Let me see your face, Marcellus. Get Broussard. There we go. I need both of you
What's
here.
up?
Marcellus, this fits with your philosophy, and this is a distinct difference than you and I have. Because you believe that once a guy's accomplished something, as Broussard said, he's a made man.
Yep.
Like, you don't have to prove anymore. You've already proved what you have. And for me, it's like, if we're talking about true champions, it's like, no, you've demonstrated that you know the formula. Now you need to go do it again. And if you don't, I'm not looking to Paul George, who's never done it before, to say, well, it's up to you to carry this. When it was Kawhi Leonard who decided he was going to go to the Clippers. He decided that Paul George was the guy that was going to be his running mate. It wasn't the other way around. And if we're looking at the previous 2 titles that Kawhi Leonard has, there remains the question, okay, so how much of that was Kawhi Leonard? And how much was it Tim Duncan and Manu Ginobili and the San Antonio Spurs? And in Toronto, how much was it Kyle Lowry and Fred VanVleet and Serge Ibaka and Nick Nurse? That's what Kawhi still has to prove, that he can not just be part of a championship, but he can be the driving force behind a championship. And what we saw last year was that he could not. So he very much has that to prove. We got Paul George, meanwhile, saying last year, yeah, we weren't expecting to win last year anyway. So you're asking me to believe and put the pressure on that guy to deliver it when half the time I'm not even sure he's got his eye on the prize? I just think you guys are being wildly unrealistic to think that Paul George is going to be the guy. Even Kawhi Leonard's got to know, I can't count on that guy. I'm the one who's going to have to deliver.
Let's go.
Oh, no, Rick, I think you're being a little unfair. I mean, you're talking about Paul George like he's Reggie Jackson or Markieff Morris. I mean, and I get
Reggie Jackson has been. I trust Reggie Jackson more than I do Paul George right now.
Markieff Morris.
Come on. Paul George, you know he is in a class way above Reggie Jackson. So you may have docked him, but the general public,
talent-wise, yes.
The millions who will be watching the game tonight are expecting, they look at Paul George as the number 2. He is the number 2. It's not Reggie, it's not Markieff.
And that's why you and I are on this show, to educate them.
Okay, look. Let me just come between this because there's some strong points on both sides. I'm on the side with you, Chris Broussard. You've been a little heavy-handed when it comes to Paul George and his greatness right now. There's some confirmation bias going on. We're talking about, oh, well, we saw you on
I didn't call him layoff, P.
5 points and the ball hits the side of the backboard. But people forget he's had 15 career 30-plus games in points in the postseason. So no one wants to talk about that. None this postseason. But still, let's talk about how we're betting on Kawhi. We're betting on Kawhi because he's the common denominator of success, championship success. The question is, are you, Paul George, the proper numerator? Tom Brady and the Bucs were celebrating on boats after their Super Bowl win a few months ago. Now it's on to the next. No team has repeated as champs since Brady's Patriots back in 2004. So he would know how hard it is to run it back. Take a listen.
That's what you got to not fall into, is that, oh, this is the way it worked last year, so this is the way it'll be this year. And the reality is everything's different. And, you know, the teams will approach you a little bit differently. You know, you're kind of the team everyone's watching now, so there's different degrees of expectation. There's more external noise.
I saw him eat that burp. All right, Bucky is back. So do you have any concerns the Bucs will have a Super Bowl hangover?
You know, I have some concerns because I think you have to have concerns because this is a team that goes from being the hunter to the hunted. But let's not forget, this was a 7-5 team at one point last year. They got hot because their defense clicked. They played really well in the playoffs, and they engineered a major upset over the Kansas City Chiefs in the Super Bowl. So now the expectations that we have, because they hoisted the trophy, is that this is a super team. They bring back all 22 starters. Yep. Tom Brady is in the second year of the system, so everything should be great. But as an old defensive coordinator of mine, Fritz Shermer, once told me when we were with the Green Bay Packers, there's no automatic next step. You don't get a chance to fast forward through the 2021 season, put yourself right back in the AFC or NFC championship game and the Super Bowl and go win the second one. Because everything is different, like Tom Brady alluded to. So, yes, I am concerned Kansas team handle the pressure of being everyone's go-to game when they face it.
I don't have any concerns. Whether you want to go statistically, historically, just by the leadership of Tom Brady being there, he's the last quarterback to go back-to-back. So I trust in Tom Brady. Also trust in this roster because the last time we saw a team return all 22 starters, they won the Super Bowl again. Go back to the 79 Steelers. I trust the fact that this defense and this offense clicked at the right time. I expected a slow start. You had a declining Brady going to a new situation, and it took him some time to really dive into that playbook to his own comfort level. But then when he hit his stride, they didn't lose another game. You talk about that. 7-5 after that, what happened? Not another game. And we could say, oh, they were huge underdogs and they had a matchup against the Kansas City Chiefs, and what a surprise outcome. Or you could say, boy, did they get fully formed at the right time. So if you look at them, 1 of 5 teams to average 30-plus points per game last season. 6th ranked total defense, 8th ranked in scoring defense. Tom Brady's just different, dog. I'm going to give it to you like this. In the offseason, we've heard reports of guys declining roster bonuses, workout bonuses, up to $500,000. Then you can see even Aaron Rodgers, who is paying $93,000 in fines not to get a rep, not to get that workout in. And then there's Tom Brady, who played injured last year, and who last year broke into houses just to get the playbook, just to find a way to get that rep. Tom Brady built different, man, and that's why he knows the road ahead is still something he can conquer. Urban Meyer said recently that Tim Tebow is one of the 90 guys in Jacksonville trying to make the team. Added that the former quarterback's move to tight end is uncharted waters and is going to be very difficult for him. Meyer appeared to soften his stance earlier this week, saying, quote, we have a good chemistry on our team, but he's picking it up decent. So, Bucky, more or less confident Tim Tebow makes the team after Urban Meyer's comments. Tebow!
I got more confidence because all of the conversation coming from Coach Meyer is always positive in regards to Tim Tebow. Even though he talked about, hey, he has to work, he has to earn it. That's part of maintaining a meritocracy within the team. He has to make sure that everybody, at least on the surface, appears to earn what they're given. And let's be honest about the position. The tight end position is one where you can create it and put job responsibilities on it to enable anybody to kind of have a way. Hey, if Tim Tebow is a terrific inline blocker, then we'll make him a wide tight end, attach him to the tackle. If Tim Tebow isn't good in that regard, but maybe better on the move, let's make him an H-back. If Tim Tebow has maybe some running skills and the ability to catch it out the backfield, let's maybe make him a fullback. There are plenty of avenues for Tim Tebow to make the team. He has to show and give Urban just enough for him to do what he wants to do, which is to give him a spot on this roster.
Man, Urban Meyer knows damn well that Tim Tebow making his team. You think that he gonna do that to his neighbor, his favorite player ever, his bestie? He gonna drag him through this humiliating process and then at the end just drop him off? Oh, Tebow, that was cute. Why you think he said, hey, play tight end? Why? Because he knows the tight ends he doesn't have on his roster. The tight end room, this is my favorite sentence, looks like 2 blockers, a former undrafted free agent with 1 career catch, and a former 6th-round pick with no career catches. Tebow making this team. Urban Meyer right now is trying to come up with ways to pretend that Tim Tebow is not making his team so he can give the perception of the meritocracy. He knows what's happening here. So anytime somebody uses a descriptor like decent, when they're talking about football, you know damn well they lying. Hey, how was practice day? Oh, it was decent. Ain't nobody ever in football history used that word when they talking about the game that we played, Bucky. So you look at this situation, coaches is out there doing what Cube said. Ice Cube Ben called this. It's mandatory time wasting. Something you got to go through the necessary evils, answering question after question from reporter after reporter without giggling, without laughing, without really saying the answer because you already know the answer. Tim Tebow's making this team. He's too good for the business of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Ticket sales, jersey sales, he's box office. And last time I checked, looking at this tight end room, maybe he's the best tight end on that roster. Dak Prescott, beast, already making headlines at Cowboys camp. Now Adam Schefter reports another big move with the quarterback leaving Adidas for a 5-year deal with Jordan Brand. Okay. Dak is the only quarterback and is the highest paid NFL player on the brand. So, Bucky, what does Jordan Brand deal mean for Dak Prescott?
It means that Dak Prescott potentially could be the face of the NFL very, very shortly. That's the only reason why you're the Jordan Brand and you do this deal. He plays for America's team. He's QB1. He's played like a top 5 quarterback. Yeah, it's a reasonable expectation that they believe Dak Prescott could be the face of the league very, very shortly.
Yeah, man, these brands collide. Boom, the star and the Jordan Brand. And then you got Dak, the quarterback of America's team, second highest paid. Woo, it's going to be a collision of greatness right there. Only Michael Vick, to me, has had a shoe that was signature in the NFL that people actually said, okay, that and Bruce Smith. Everybody else is just, what kind of shoe? Nike shoe, Ball Shark, Tiger Shark. So let's see the Dak Sharks. Let's go get it.